Welcome to you all here. I'd like to start the meeting. Any apologies? I've received a Kim Jones has apologized. Right, thank you very much. Any issues of interest? If not, we'll move on to the minutes. Does anybody like to approve and second the minutes? Anybody like to propose that they're correct? The second, Joe, seconded. Great, thank you very much. Any matters arising from the minutes? If not, then we move on to number 4.
Kom dan, school. Iawn?
On the screen, I'm still there. Diolch, Mr. Cadeirydd. Oes amhanesol di hwn, mewn chwel.
Excuse me, I've lost the translation.
Brian, can you hear me now? Okay, yeah, lovely, thank you. Right, Mr. Chair. This is an outline planning to demolish 2 outbuildings and citing 10 and creating a parking space and redevelopment of the remaining building as a service block. The site is in a rural area just outside the Llanbedr village. As you can see in the picture showing the site, you can see it's close to Capel Salem. This is the road which goes up from Llanbedr. It's up in Pentre Gwynfryn to the direction of Cwmnantgol. This is the existing entrance down to the site. And as you can see, there are buildings there, have been there for quite a while, but not being used now. There's sink buildings. So they intend to use one of these units as a service unit. Some of you remember that the permission was granted on appeal for a site to store fallen stock. There's quite a bit of history with the site. This is where animals were burnt for quite a few years, but that hasn't happened there for quite a while now. And no work has been carried out on the site since the appeal in 2021. So the proposal is to demolish existing buildings, to site 10 parts and use the existing building as a service building and create a parking space, a hardcore. As you can see from the details, the building to the middle and with the track going down and 10 pods sited. This is an outline planning application. So we haven't received any further details. During the process of application, we received a comment from the Community Council. They approve. The Natural Resources Wales have significant objections. Highways haven't said anything, and the mental health needed further information before they could comment on the application. So the policies most relevant here are the Development Policy 1, 2, 22, and 29. And Policy 22 does not allow a new static or shallow sites within the national park. And further on, Policy 29 only allows small-scale development or alternative holiday vacation. And this is where they're part of a diversification scheme. So it's quite clear that there's no LDP policy, which supports the principle of the development proposed. Further on from the policies, the development plan 1 states that it's important that we keep the special qualities and the purposes as part of this part of the national park. And even though the proposal will not be visually apparent from higher ground, there is a public footpath which runs through the site, and it will be highly visible from this public footpath. So due to the nature and design of the development, we fail to integrate and conserve the unique qualities of the wider area. And it will have an acceptable impact on the landscape. As you can see, the Natural Resources Wales have stated that they have quite significant concerns, and they've asked for further information. But the details have been passed on to the agents, but no further information has come to hand. They specifically worried about the risk of pollution, the septic tank, and also to development the site. They need to cut and fill into the land to set sites for these pods. So obviously there's a clear policy objection to this development. We do recognize that the Community Council do support the proposal, but there's clear objections as well from the Natural Resources Wales. And from us, with the development of Policy 1, it would not conserve and enhance the special qualities. And also it fails to comply with the policies 1, 2, 22 and 29. The 6th reason to refuse it, doesn't meet the requirements of Development Policy 22. Proposal is not small scale, so it's the new development on such a large scale within open countryside. It's unsuitable, which fails to enhance and conserve the special qualities of the park. The insufficient details in order to assess the ecological implications, and with no information with respect to the local septic tank and the drainage field. We have received a statement, but we haven't assessed it yet. So we'd have to take that objection, that reason out. So in conclusion, it's within an open landscape, and it would go against our policies to support such an application. Just to add one point, I would take the linguistic statement out. Yes, if it is approved, yes. It hasn't been assessed yet. Okay, thank you. Okay, the agents. The agent is speaking now.
Richard, yeah?
Richard, is it?
Hi.
Okay,
Hi, good morning, panel, committee, ladies and gentlemen. In consideration of the current permissions, planning history, location, the site can only be considered as an exception site in regard to planning policy and suitable for determination at committee. The site does not fit neatly into the planning development zones, yet has permissions and value that the site owner would like to realise in the same manner as any other landowner. This current application is currently outlined to provide the developer with confidence that further design is prudent. Detail can be resolved as a reserved matter. The current permissions are subject to local opposition. In this case, the proposed use is supported by the local community. No doubt the community would appreciate your support in this matter. That concludes my statement. Thank you very much.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you very much. Would anybody like to start? I don't see, I can't see everyone's name on the screen. So I'll have to ask for your help here. Oh, help me when somebody wants to talk. I'll let you know if anybody wants to say anything. Joe Nuttall's hand is up.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Reading the Influence for Impact document, which is in the next meeting, they're talking about discouraging wild camping. Now, obviously, these applications are going to come up, and some of them need to go through because what we're trying to do is encourage people to come, stick to the rules, take the rubbish home, and come and stay and be wanted and not be wild camping. So I think we should keep a very open mind. Obviously, there's information that's needed that needs to be gathered that hasn't been gathered, highways and the Natural Resources Wales. But I think with an open mind, we need to gather the information, and when it's all together, bring it back to committee.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr. Ond mi rydyn ni yn
Thank you very
ca'l-
much. But we are discussing the application which is in front of us. Anyone else? Tim has put his hand up. And Brian and Anwen. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For me, looking at this application from what we've heard now, even if the linguistic statement, even if that's very, very good, we have sufficient to refuse it. So I propose that we refuse it. Is there someone like to second this? Anyone like to second it? Brian has seconded it. Okay, thank you. Anwen, want to talk as well? Brian, do you wanted to talk? And then Anwen. So, Brian.
Thank you, Chair. The reason I seconded it was that if I would have proposed the objection based on the policies that we have, my concern, whilst accepting the comments of Joe, is that we haven't really thought about in detail how we might address that. Currently, with the policies as it stands, my concern is if we go against it, we will get a rash of other larger developments, either caravan chalets or pods. So from that point of view, I would support the rejection. The other one was bearing in mind the data that came for the bypass that was proposed in Lambeda. This is obviously increasing pressure on that junction near the bridge in Lambeda, and it would be interesting if it ever went any further to see what Highway said about that, but it is obviously creating pressure on that tight junction. So for those two reasons, I second the proposal to reject.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr iawn. Anwen?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a local member, living up the road which was shown on the screen, but I live in Cwm Bychan, of course, the better valley. I come down that road every day. It's a narrow road. It's a narrow road down to the village of Llanbedr. And as you know, they have been granted the permission on appeal to store fallen stock from not just locally, but from a wider area. And the concerns in the community is that we've been told by Mr. Bennett, he said, remember, if we don't get permission for the ponds, we're going to carry on with the next plan, which has been approved. There's a great concern locally. How many lorries will be coming up daily up this narrow road? And the community would rather see cars, because there are another two sites up Cwmlantgol with pods and caravans and camping sites. And the road is busy, and cars often parked on the side of the road in Pentre Gwynwen because they don't have any parking spots. The community would rather see somewhere like this with pods being developed. I know that it's against the policy, I'm just think possibly we could postpone the decision today, like as Joe said, until we receive more information. And could also ask if they would consider decreasing the number of pods they want to site there to 5 or 6 maybe. That would be better because even with the other plan with fallen stock, I haven't seen. There were quite a few farmers who were objected to that as well. So we're very concerned that if this plan starts, because this has been refused, I don't know, or if it's an empty threat, so that this could be passed, I don't know. But that's what he's told us. Remember, the other one has been approved. So I'd like you to postpone the decision to receive some more information, and even possibly hold a site visit so people could see exactly what the road is like. I don't, the leveling up application the application wasn't successful in Llanbedr last week. So we have come to a dead end really with the road. We'll have to put up with multiple traffic jams for I don't know how many years. That adds to it. Cars are more acceptable than lorries carrying fallen stock, waiting to turn up in the village. I'd like to propose that we postpone the decision and that we hold a site visit so that people who possibly haven't been to the area can come to the area and see what kind of road it is to go up to it. Thank you. We can only take one suggestion at a time. So one proposal has been given to refuse it. So if that fails, we'll take your second proposal and we can consider it at that time. But what you proposed, it isn't it would go against the first proposal. So the first proposal stands at the moment. So if that fails, we'll go on to discuss it further. Thank you very much. I know John Pugh wants to come in to speak, and I'd like to come in quite quickly before we have any hold a vote on this. Jonathan, can I ask Jonathan a question before we go forward? John Pugh wants to talk as well. John can come in after. What is the other pods here to help farmers, not to be put willy-nilly across the area? It's to help farmers. I was going to close with that, but I'll answer that policy requirements now. This application is quite important for the regards to principles of the local development plan. If the decision goes against the officers, there's no policy, there's nothing in our policies which support this application. The policy 22, where we don't approve any new sites, further new sites, and then policy 29 regarding pods on a small scale. But as you said, that's a policy there which is there to help farmers diversify. So we only approve them on present farms and on farm units. So that doesn't fall into that category. So there's no principle policy to approve this. If you do approve this today, it does create a bit of a headache for our officers, because there are a lot of other people within the park who would say, well, I can do this then. If you approve this today, it sets a precedent, quite an uncomfortable precedent for me as the main planning officer. I accept Joe's point. I think it's an important point. There are other sites, and they're not full to capacity throughout the year. and the local development plan review will happen this year. So there'll be an opportunity there to discuss the tourism policies and new ones if needed. But we work within the present local development plan that we have, our current development plan, and there's no precedent for us to approve it. Regards to Anwen comments, yes, we could possibly ask for, they haven't offered to bring the number of pods down, so we have to accept that it's the 10 pods that they're asking for. I don't know, John, do you want to come forward there? I'd just like to second it. If if the first proposal fails, I mean, the last thing we want to see is people wild camping all over the place. So if we don't have enough places for people to stay, where can they go but in camping laybys and stay overnight in laybys or other unsuitable places? Thank you very much. Does anybody like to speak? June. June's hand is still up. I don't know if he still wants to come in. And then June. Does Joe want to come in again? Joe's hand is up. Okay.
Diolch, Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Chair.
Just to say that as a committee, we're here to ask these difficult questions and to push the boundaries to get the best for people. So, you know, obviously the right decision has to be made regardless of whether it's difficult. It's got to be the right decision for that locality.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr iawn. June?
Thank you very much. June? Thank you, Chair. I will be voting against this application. It goes against so many policies. Highways they've got the opportunity to present another application if they want to present another application, that's fine. I don't think it'll lead to more wild camping. People who wild camp now are that type of people. They don't. People who come to the ponds, they don't want to wild camp. I think it's completely different people. What worries me most about this, if they think that they can hold us to ransom by saying if you don't allow this, we'll carry on with something else. That's wrong. That's completely wrong and totally unprincipled. They'll have to put in another application if they want, but I will be voting against this. Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak? Is there a hand up there? Nope. Okay. Then we'll move on then to the vote. Everyone who would like to refuse the application, put a green hand up to refuse the application. A green tick. Everybody who accepts the proposal to refuse. And a hand up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. There are 10 who have voted for 11 who have voted to refuse, to reject the application. So it has been rejected. So that has been carried then. Thank you very much. We'll move on. We've gone to page 25. It is for your information. So, right, page 26. Would anybody like to raise anything on this page? These are all for your information. Page 27. 28. And Anwen has got a hand up with page 27. Number 8, Mr. Chair. It's behind Morfa Garage in Harlech, land at the rear. I don't see it very untidy. When we remember it's a garage. It's the only garage in the area. which collects cars. There are other places in the area which are more untidy, in my opinion. I don't know if, I know it says here that we're awaiting response from the owner. I don't know if you've received a reply since this was let.
Yeah, so hwndi'r disgrifiad y cwyn da ni'n dderbyn.
We've received a complaint. The complaint was that there was an untidy condition. It's not our description of the area. That's what we're looking into, the condition. We have sent the owner, have sent a letter, and we have received a response, and we're discussing the response with the owner. Thank you very much. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Mr. Chair, with number 52, this was raised in the last meeting. We've been monitoring over a period of time. I was there last week. No further work has been on this meeting, on this site. So this can be closed now. 38, 39, 40 and 41, 42, 43. Can I ask about Nanai Hall on number 43? I think Jane is closer to this site than me. So Jane, I don't know if you can update us on this.
Yep, thank you. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. In respect to Nanai Hall, obviously sort of the update from last committee is provided there. We have gone to CADU for then to put forward an application to try and get grant funding in relation to it. That process is actually going to take longer than we anticipated, and I believe that we make our initial inquiry to it, and then we will find out by the end of this month whether we go on to the next stage, whereby we then have to provide further details in relation to Nanai and the situation there before actually sort of finalising or getting a determination that we have been successful in getting or receiving some kind of grant funding. Just for members' information, Eleanor Carpenter, our new Historic Environment Planning Officer, has joined us at committee today on Zoom. She's actually online. Obviously, since Eleanor started in October last year, we've sort of obviously sort of progressing Nanai a lot quicker because we've got the additional resource there now. And it's Eleanor that has also been working with Naomi Jones in Cultural Heritage that have put forward the bid for the grant aid with CADU. So it's a case of just waiting to see whether that is going to be successful. We've made the next round on that. I don't know whether there's anything more that Eleanor wants to add to that at all, if I've missed anything, but that's the update that I've got for now. Thank you.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr iawn.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Does anybody else want to say anything? Eleanor? No? If I can just come in quickly there. What Jane has said there is that we're more or less accepting the principle that we need to do some work on the building so that it doesn't become completely dilapidated. There is a danger with that, of course, because we don't want to throw loads of public money at this if there isn't a long-term plan for it either. because we're going to continue with the same problem that we have now unless there is a sustainable plan for the site. That's something that we're looking at really carefully. So there is work going on in the background. So just to assure the committee, it's an expensive job and we're not just throwing money at it. As we want to stop water going in and improve the roof. We're talking about thousands of pounds here just to stop the building from getting worse. So we're very careful in trying to make sure that there is something long-term in this as well. The owner hasn't collaborated with us much at all, and that's a bit of a headache, but there are things that we can do in the background, and we're hoping that there will be a long-term sustainable plan, but we need to progress carefully on this, because we're dealing with public money at the end of the day, so we're going carefully. Okay, thanks for that. Paige.
Okay, Ivan.
Cwestiwn gyffredinol, just sôn
Just a
am y-
general question, really. You're talking about keeping the building dry. Am I right in saying that? Yes. With the exact plan, Jane and Eleanor have been on site with the experts, so I don't know what the exact plans are. It's a plan really to, which is a temporary plan to keep it dry. Okay, thank you. What's the input from the local community? What do the local community feel about this? Well, there's a lot of interest in it. The local community are in touch with us often because it's such a significant building. They don't have any input into the process, but we do keep in touch with them, with those who are in touch with us, and keep them updated. They don't have any direct input into the process, though. Does anybody else have any questions? If not, we'll move on to the Section 106 agreements. Once again, for information, page 47, 48. Then we're now page 49.
Mr. Chairman, is it possible I could come in on this point in relation to this this paper? I just wanted to advise that I did state at the last committee that the application at Uranus Court would actually not be on the list this time. Anyone eagle-eyed will note that it is still there. It basically, when it came to reviewing the application and underwriting and writing the delegated report, it was aware that there was limited details in relation to the farm enterprise, and I needed and required more information about the farm enterprise to ensure that it did comply with the relevant policy, and therefore I had to ask and request the additional information from the agent, and just to confirm that has been received, so I will be able to complete the report. So I just wanted to put that on record and to apologise for my comment from the last committee.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr, Jane.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Can I ask which application you're relating to here, Jane? If you can just...
Yes,
John is asking.
Yes, it's Ynys Cwrt Pennell, which is MP5 75 73D, and you'll note there's a heading that is awaiting farm enterprise details from the applicant agent, but those have been received now, just this last week.
Page 51 in the Welsh. Over to page 50, 51. Can I go back? There are two hands up here. Ivor's was up first, I believe. Royal Oak Farmhouse. Is this in Betws itself? Is it in Betws or is it out in the countryside? It doesn't actually explain in the description there. Which page are you on, Ivor? 51 in the Welsh. It's just down the Lligwy River. Just wanted to know its location, basically. Okay. So, 50. Mast yn Dinas Mawddwy. I think we should have the final decision as members on applications like this. Because we had one like this in Trawsfynydd, we approved that. But masts, I do believe, and similar applications should be presented to us as members because they're so important in the countryside these days. In relation to that point, obviously that will, the committee knows that we have a delegated decision system in place, and we have to make the decisions in accordance with that. On masts, I checked the policy on this last week, and we've received 64 applications in the past couple of years, and we've permitted every one of them except for 2. There have only been 2 refusals on telecommunication masts. I think that's a positive thing, but if you want masts that are going to be refused to be presented to committee, I think we should have that decision from committee because it goes against the delegated decision procedure of the authority itself. Okay, thank you.
Aelod gwylod ar yr disgwyl manylion gan yr acen.
Second from the bottom there, awaiting decision.
Os yw'n rhywun sy'n siarad eto'r 51?
Does anybody want to speak again on 51?
Okay.
I've already made a proposal on that. Do we have a seconder? What's the proposal? Because I couldn't hear, as in Elwyn couldn't hear. That when applications for masts are presented to the park, if the officers refuse, I think we should make the decisions as authorities, as the authority. We need a seconder for that proposal, please. I'll second that because it is important. And sometimes they are erected and we don't know where they are. But if officers are going to refuse applications, then that's when they'll come to the committee. That's the proposal, not what you've just mentioned, which is different to the procedure that exists at the moment, which is that they are decided by delegated decision. So they will come in front of the committee if the recommendation of the authority, if the recommendation of the community council is against any statutory consultees such as the community councils and RW, because that would trigger it to be discussed in front of the committee. If the statutory consultees agree with the recommendations, then the recommendation recommendation goes along with that. It's still decided under delegated authority. Because we do have a seconder in it. We do have a seconder. Elfed seconded that proposal. Iwan? If anybody else wants to speak on this proposal, shall we put it to the vote therefore? Right, before then, if there's anything wrong or if somebody like NRW complains, it is discussed by the authority in any case, am I right? The only things that would come up would be the ones that you would refuse under delegated authority. But there's a reason why they would be refused. Well, that's the proposal, isn't it? One additional point to that, obviously the members also have the right to call the applications into committee. I don't know if they should be because the members can't have the right to call them in any case. Is the community council supportive of this, John? Okay, if nobody else wants to speak, everybody in favour of John's proposal? Anybody against the red cross? Please vote.
Pump o blaid. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 yn erbyn. Oes 'na rywun yn erbyn?
5 in favour, 5 against. Anyone?
So, okay, now i 5.
9 to 5. So can you remove your voting buttons, please? Delegated decisions permitted for information. Any questions relating to page 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, and that's it. And there are 2 appeals that have been won by the park for information. Does anybody have any questions in relation to those? I'll just come in quickly on the appeals. There are 2 appeals at the end there, as you can see. One was in relation to design, and we had support from the inspector on the design matters, and the other was on retail policy in Harlech. Once again, it's good to see support for that, and our record on appeals is really good at the moment. We've had a really good run of winning appeals, so we're doing really well. There is some work that's going on this site in Harlech, isn't there? I need to go there to see the site, actually.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr iawn.
Okay, thank you. That's it.